This week in Counter-Strike, we got the most dramatic final that we could have hoped for at PGL Bucharest. NACS is finally back on the map with this new complexity roster. We have confirmation that G2 is officially done with Monacy, and I think we know where he's gonna go. And we've also got confirmation that VAC is working. Well, kinda. Let's start by talking about this Falcons win at PGL Bucharest. I don't think anybody would have predicted them to be winning this event coming into it, but they did take a 3-0 victory over G2, and there's a lot of drama going on right now with the Falcons G2 situation and the moves. So I guess Monacy is confirmed to be leaving by the G2 manager. They didn't say he was going to Falcons necessarily, but it is probably gonna happen. Like it's basically confirmed at this point.
Are you saying there's a chance that Monacy's not going to Falcons?
I mean, there's really no chances there, but I mean, they just have to say, right, that he's played his last game at G2, he's done. We are looking at other players to replace him after this, which means I think G2 qualified for the major, right? That means that we're going to get somebody else on the roster. We're going to get some stickers. They're looking at Hades. That's what I heard.
Seems like a stopgap. I mean, the most obvious choice that would like be the most drama filled is Simple. It would be Simple. It would have been such an obvious slam dunk move for Simple to play for G2 at the major. That would have been so insane. Obviously, there's contracts and things that go into this stuff that's like a little more complicated than that. Hades is just not, I can't imagine Hades is the guy that G2 really want. I
mean, definitely not. It just seems like a Band-Aid fix. I mean, I know last week, Heavy God did post that thing to his Telegram, the picture of Simple in a G2 jersey. So maybe it's not too late. They could still pick up Simple. It would be a crazy move. Like, I would be excited to watch him play at another major, but I just don't see it happening. But what I do see happening is this video being sponsored.
Today's video is sponsored by Skin Club. Now, you must be over 18 before you play on the site, but if you are and you do decide to play, Skin Club is a site that has over 100 cases that you can choose to unbox. Now, you can either unbox them individually like we're doing on screen now, or if that's not your thing, you can actually put a bunch of cases into a case battle and play versus another player, where the winner gets to keep everything that was unboxed during the battle. And when it's all said and done, you can use the upgrader to take the skins that you got that you're not the biggest fan of and see if you can maybe get away with something better. And then once you finish, you can actually withdraw any skin that you want right onto your Steam account. If you decide to check out the site, make sure you guys use my link for a 7% deposit bonus. Just make sure that you play responsibly, and let's get right back into the video.
It's a no-lose move because like right now I think teams are worried about gambling on Simple because he costs a lot. And if he was just loaned to G2, it was just a no-lose move. But yeah, I don't know. Sad for Dexter, I guess, is the main thing with Falcons.
Yeah, I mean, he literally got MVP at this event. He played his heart out. You could see how much it meant to him when he won. And then just to walk away knowing that that was your last game on Falcons is just probably not a good feeling. Probably very mixed emotions. But it does beg the question of where Dexter could potentially go after this. I think he could maybe go to FaZe. I know it seems like a little random to replace Brokey, but I mean, at the same time, like, you could be getting somebody who's potentially way better than him, at least in current form.
I actually think FaZe might be the best place for Dexter to go, because I've always felt like Dexter is a little inconsistent for me. I haven't liked that. But the thing is that he seems to show up in the playoffs, and when he has pop-off games, he has the potential to do a lot. And FaZe, when you're looking at Brokey, I mean, I basically just described Brokey, except his pop-off games don't happen very often, and they don't seem to be that amazing recently either.
I would actually like to see it happen, but, you know, it would really be sad for Brokey to get removed so close to the major, especially since they did just get top 3 at the same event that Dexter won, but maybe he won't play this major. I mean, there's always a chance that it'll be a after-the-season move that could be made as well.
Yeah, I mean, you could say we're being too harsh, but at the same time, I mean, the expectations are different, right? Like, you look at complexity, they came 4th. That's a massive W, right? You look at FaZe coming 3rd. That's a big step up from where they started in the same event, but it's still like, you've got a Liege, Kerrigan, Frozen, like, you want to be contesting for the event win, you know?
Yeah, definitely. We shouldn't just be happy with top 3, which, by the way, I feel like talking about FaZe a little more, I'm very surprised that they haven't actually found any consistency with Elige. Like, I thought that Elige joining FaZe was like a slam dunk move, right? Like, that just made sense, but they haven't been able to make it work yet, and I'm not really sure why. Like, I don't know. They've rearranged all of their roles on the team. Like, I know Frozen, Rain, like, they're playing different spots. Honestly, there's really no... It doesn't make any sense. I feel like picking up Elige ended up being more trouble for the rest of the team than somebody else potentially.
I mean, I think we have to keep in mind that FaZe for most of last year wasn't that good, right? Like
Right.
they had I think they got to the final of both majors, right?
Yes, they did.
But they, at the same time, basically outside of those majors, you would not have looked at FaZe as like this incredible team. They had to have, I mean, at the end of the year, maybe near the beginning of the year, I think they were a little bit better. But from the first major until the second major, they were not looking great, honestly. And then
Yeah.
Rops kind of pops off at the second major. And if you just look back, it looks like they were better than they were. I feel like it was kind of on a similar trajectory. And now I feel like they're actually making steps. They're actually consistently kind of improving little by little. It's just hard to see when you look at the names on the server and who they struggle against. And you're like, this should not be possible. But I do think they're getting better little by little.
Well, I'm still excited to see if Dexter goes there or not. But there has been a lot of really interesting roster moves happening. We have Furia picking up Molodoy, and Fallen switches to rifling, which I don't know. Something about that just doesn't feel right. Like, Fallen has and always will be an opper, and I don't know. This guy, he seems like he's all right, 20 years old, coming from Amcal, but it's such a weird move for them to pick up somebody who's not Brazilian, because historically that's been a problem when they picked up Portuguese-speaking players. Like, they picked up Junior once upon a time, and then he was shortly cut because they didn't like communicating in English.
I think they didn't like that he sucked. If we're being completely honest, he just did not. Listen,
right,
even if I respect
that's
Junior,
fair,
he didn't
that's
play
fair.
well on that roster. Okay,
You're right.
But Austin, listen, give me your real opinion here. Okay, don't say this is an interesting move. What's your opinion?
No, the move sucks. I just don't understand why they would pick somebody from out of their region, especially somebody who, like, this seems like the manager of Furia was like looking for someone, and they're like, oh dude, we're gonna grab somebody like Liquid found Ultimate, and then they just picked this guy who, I guess that's fine, but I just don't know why a Brazilian team would be picking him up, and let alone some team like Furia, who's probably the best team in Brazil right now. And then you take your opper, who's been opping for 15 years, and go, yeah, you're just gonna rifle now and just be a hard IGL. Does that make any sense? No, I don't think it makes any sense at all.
This kind of feels like, I don't know if you guys, I think it was Bubsky that said this, that he said when Astralis hired the new GM or whatever at some point in like 2018, he was looking at people on FaceIt and trying to recruit them and telling the team, like, have you seen his FaceIt stats? and that like feels kind of similar to this. But I also feel like it could be an indictment on the Brazilian scene that like so many players might be contracted. And I think someone could correct me, but I think the idea is that because of the football contracts in Brazil, they can have an unbelievable buyouts on these contracts, even for players that aren't making a lot of money. My guess is it's common to have so many players that are contracted that you can't even get, there's just speculation, you might not be able to get a really good player in the Brazilian scene that's not just a massive gamble or a ridiculous buyout. I mean, dude, Liquid's apparently paid 200 or 300,000 for skulls. Like,
Yeah.
whack.
I remember hearing about that when it happened, and then that's when I first learned about like the Brazilian contracts and like how you have to pay multiple thousands of dollars for somebody who's barely proven at a tier 2 level. And it just makes it really hard for someone to make the jump from tier 2 to tier 1, which is probably why you see a lot of tier 2 Brazilian teams making appearances at tier 1 events and then fall to obscurity after. And you might see another, like a player from that roster show up later in a few years once his contract runs out. But yeah, I mean, like, look at like a team like Legacy. They just played at this PGL Bucharest event. I think that they did okay, but all of those players who all have potential might not ever get picked up to a team like Furia, at least not anytime soon, given that we just had this pickup for Molodoy. But you know what I mean? Like, it is a very interesting situation. So I guess from that perspective, signing someone from a different region does make sense, but you change the entire team dynamic. Like, I still can't get over the fact that Fallen's not opping. Like, that doesn't feel right.
I think Cello had to go, but Fallen,
I mean, yeah.
The way I've defended Fallen and the way I just think it's accurate is that he's not very good without the op. He's competent with the op. He's not as aggressive maybe on the CT side as I'd want at times. Like he doesn't get a lot of kills, but when he sees people, I think he tends to do fairly well. But when he doesn't have the op, he really struggles. I have the concern this is just going to look like the Cadian move. This is just going to end up being the Cadian
that's
move.
what I was about to say. Like, same thing with Cadian, right? Like he's not the most convincing when he doesn't have the op. And also Cadian and Device are doing quite a bit of double opping on their CT side, so I feel like we're still going to see that as well with this new Furia team, which I guess is fine, but like you don't want that to be your win condition if that's like, oh, Fallen is not really shooting back, but if we give him a second op, maybe we can win a few rounds. Like, I don't know. It just doesn't make any sense. I mean, maybe Fallen wants to be like a Kerrigan IGL where he's just going to be like, guys, don't worry, I'm going to go and get info, and I'm like, you guys can play the round around me, but like, I don't know if he's got it like that. I'd love to be proven wrong, truthfully, but I'm not convinced at face value.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at what's happening with FaZe right now, one of the problems is sometimes Kerrigan gets targeted. You in CS2, with the way teams are playing now, they find those weaknesses, and you can be great on the T side, and I think that's fine. You can be a low fragging IGL on the T side. It's not the end of the world. But on CT side, you need to hold your own. And if you're an opper for your entire lifetime and you swap to rifling, it's fucking hard to just do your job, which is like get a kill and stay alive. That's not easy at the pro level.
I think in general, we've kind of like past a line now where you can get by doing something like that. Like in the last 5 years, I feel like CS has become so tactical at the tier 1 level where any weakness is going to get hard exploited like that. And also, I don't even think you can keep up with some of these players. Like, do you really think that Fallen rifling versus Donk is an even close fight? And forget Donk, because that's not fair for anyone. If Fallen versus someone like even Hunter, like I don't even think of Hunter as like a fantastic rifler, like not even in the top 50 riflers, but I don't even think Fallen could be consistently winning duels against him. Like this move, it's like a Band-Aid fix. Like maybe in the future we're replacing Fallen for a new IGL kind of move. Like they didn't want to make two at once. That's what it feels like.
Yeah, I mean, could be the case, but you know what is actually an interesting move that I'm more positive about is this complexity situation, because Austin, as the resident NACS player, how does this happen, Austin?
Truth be told, like I wish I could say I'm surprised, but I'm really not, to see a team like Complexity finally take a risk that I've been begging every other team from NA to do for years and years. It actually pays off for him. I've been saying for a long time, maybe I'm a little biased since I've been competing as well, but I've been playing alongside a lot of the players that you're seeing now, like Lake, JBA, Nick, and of course CXZI. All these guys, super talented players, and they have been for the last 3 or 4 years, but no team is willing to take any risks on players. And I'm so happy that Jason Lake wants to be a diehard NA team, because these guys would never have even been scouted. Like, let's be honest, like you have somebody like, the 2 guys they picked up, they were playing in NA ECL, not necessarily at the highest part either, maybe mid to low tier, and they would have just flew under their radar. And you take these guys, give them a few weeks, and all of a sudden they're getting top 4 at tier 1 LAN. Nobody has ever even thought of taking a risk. Even recently, Automatic made a video talking about his time as a tier 1 pro and why they didn't want to take risk, and I think his logic was flawed. He said it takes too long to develop talent. What even does that mean? It takes too long and it's too risky to pick up somebody and try to work on them? I felt like that was like a cope answer, and I mean, they didn't really make it much further not doing that, did they? So what do I know?
Yeah, I mean, I actually thought that was like one of the better points of his video, that it does NA orgs in CS are short-sighted, not short-sighted. Yeah, a little bit short-sighted in that, they're looking on under a 6-month period in terms of when they need results. And if it takes up to 6 months to develop a player, then a lot of the time what you might have by the time, and the problem is that sometimes I've seen this happen in the past. A player is starting to show promise right around the time that he gets cut, because they just don't wait that extra 2 or 3 months. That seems to be the case a lot of the time with NACS. But I mean, this isn't, how long has this taken? This is they got this team at the beginning of the year, right?
Yeah, it's only been a few months. Yeah. And they immediately went and did not do very well at the first events that they were at. And everybody was like, oh my God, Complexity is dead. And then they disappeared at NA, went through a qualifier without dropping any series, and that was impressive. We thought that they would be struggling in NA, but they weren't. And then they went to that European LAN, or not a LAN, sorry, the online qualifier for Yala, and they played really well there, and they just started to get it together. I just wish that we would see more teams take risks on players. Another egregious example is Malbs was playing in NA for years, and nobody wanted to take the risk on Malbs. Do you know how silly that sounds now? He was doing that the entire time he was here, by the way, but nobody wanted to take the risk. You also have people like Lake and JBA who are now finding success in the tier 2, borderline tier 1 NA teams. Where are the orgs that want to take risk on these players? I've been so frustrated about this for years and years and years, and I'm so happy that we finally have a team that can actually back what I'm saying.
I'm going to be cautiously optimistic on this one because, look, Halzerk, Elige wasn't holding Halzerk back. And it's not like Grim necessarily, he's gotten more resources. He's definitely taken some better duels, but at the same time, he's doing a lot of the exact same roles and he's just doing better. I'm not yet ready to say that this team is going to pop off, but they are doing a ton of things right. And I think that is partly that you can't just lean on Elige anymore. That like you have to make every player have agency, make them all be proactive on the map, and maybe that's activated some things in terms of strategy that makes a difference. I kind of think that's why, like, if you look at teams that have near eras, usually it's a team that has the main four. They are like a top 5 team for a year or two, and then they make one move and they pop off because they've already figured out all of the things they need to try and get the most out of every single player. And I think that might be what you're seeing with Complexity. I'm hoping it goes well, but NA doesn't have the greatest history in terms of these things.
Right. I mean, I guess I agree with you that it might not continue to be at this level, but I am just more excited to see people that I've been playing against for years immediately go and have results at a tier 1 event. I feel like that's such a cool thing to see happen from my perspective, you know, like just knowing like, oh, well, no wonder I lost to those guys. They're sick, you know, like it's something like that. Also, I want our region to be better. And I feel like I got to witness the downfall of it when Valorant came out and then all the match fixing stuff happened. And I just feel really proud of everybody who's like finally being able to like break through again and like prove that we have something to get excited about here.
Yeah, would you say the Blue Jays roster change is witnessing the downfall of NACS, or it's
so then there's that, right? So then we have, if you guys didn't see, there's a tier 2 team in North America called Blue Jays, and they recently cut a player about 2 weeks before the MRQ, and also Frag Vegas, which if you guys don't know what that is, it's a big LAN that's happening in Vegas in a couple of weeks as well. And this move comes out of nowhere. Like quite literally, if you were to ask me the last team I expected to make a roster change in NA, it's this team. They've had so many good results. They've almost qualified. They even almost qualified for PGL Astana recently over M80. They didn't, but they almost did. They won the most recent Frag event as well, and they've had consistently good results online. But after an upset, or maybe 2 upsets in a row, I don't remember what it was, they cut a player on their team and said that it was the right move. But why would you do that so close to such an important event? Well, I think it's just an NA moment. I think they got upset, they got into a big argument, and they just did the funny. And I can't get behind that.
Is Blue Jays a salaried roster?
They are, yes.
It is? Okay.
Yes.
All right, I don't know if I can say too much about this then.
I mean, it's just the classic. NA is just doing what we do best. You make 1 step forward and you make 2 steps backward, which is similar to what's happening in the Impact scene, which I don't know how many of you guys are keeping up with, but recently the players that play in the Impact League have been asking for their final to be played on the stage in front of the crowd, because if you haven't been to an event, you might not even know, but the Impact event runs alongside the main event. There's a little stage that's in front or next to the big arena where the Impact event is played, and you can watch all of the matches, the group stage matches and the final. They are now moving the final of Impact, which is great, to the main stage. They're going to do that instead of a show match. You get to watch the finals of the Impact event and then move to the grand finals. In return, they are removing the group stage and you can't watch it, which is devastating. I mean, as somebody who's been to both of the Dallas Impact events as well as the main event, I know that there's so many people that don't even know the Impact scene exists that are just walking around the venue, walking around the DreamHack event, and they just come in and watch a game. And it's great exposure, great advertisement for them. And to take that away to give them the stage just doesn't make any sense. I mean, realistically, I'm not sure why they can't keep the stage that they have set up at the DreamHack event and then also do the final. I'm not really sure. It seems a little backwards to me, but again, 1 step forward, 2 steps back.
2 steps VAC? Is that what you're saying? 1 step forward, 2 steps VAC? Because VAC seems to have taken multiple steps forward hasn't it recently, Austin?
Yeah, so apparently VAC has been receiving a couple of updates behind the scenes, which I've been saying as a professional Valve glazer, according to the community, that they've been making improvements behind the scene for quite some time.
Yeah, well, I've been to Valve headquarters multiple times. And
oh, really?
They talk about Austin behind the scenes. They talk about, like, he's our diehardest fan. He's out in the streets shedding his own blood and tears to support us. And they tell me behind closed doors that they don't really think you need to be doing that because you're just hurting yourself, and they don't really care about the game anyways. But it seems like, actually, based on the Sparkles video, that maybe Valve does actually care about the game, even if, look, the grass is always greener when it comes to Valorant. You watch Valorant and they're like, oh my God, have you reported someone for cheating? Can we check that game? We'll ban him immediately. Hey, pro Valorant players, have you ever seen someone you think is cheating? Tell us and we'll ban them now. And it's like, yeah, that would be nice. Okay. But at the same time, you have to take the good with the bad. And Valve might be way too hands off and they could do better. But at the same time, it's like, we only have the extremes in this case. We have Valorant that's the extreme in the other direction, where their fans at times have been begging Valorant to stop actively killing their own game because they keep adding garbage. Or Valve, where it's like, can you please, Valve, just do something? Can you just do anything? Well, it seems like at least based on the Sparkles video, seems like maybe Valve is doing things, but they're doing it in typical Valve fashion, which is to take fucking forever to do anything because they're just like moving it 1 inch at a time. But it could be getting somewhere.
Right. So if you haven't seen the video, first of all, I highly recommend that you check it out after you finish this part. But Sparkles interviewed a cheater, and the cheater was talking about basically everything that you would have expected, that it's very easy to cheat in CS2. But one thing that he did mention that I think will catch a lot of people off guard is that a lot of the cheats that they were using are getting banned and getting caught. Now, there is a catch to this, of course, that VAC is actually detecting a lot of the cheats that you're playing against. They are just giving cooldowns to the cheaters instead of banning them. That way they can continue to collect more information on them. So the way they're doing this is they basically have it down to a little science. They get somebody who they are pretty sure is cheating. They will give them a VAC live, so you'll get your match canceled, and that player will be issued a cooldown. Now, once their cooldown expires, they can queue again, but the catch is they are now in red trust factor. So they basically just get to play HVH lobbies. But what Valve can do then is they can collect information on the cheats that are being used so that they can use it for the other games, so that they can basically that they're getting cheats, and so they're letting people cheat on their game. I know that sounds bad, but it's actually good because, look, man, all I'm saying is they're detecting cheats, and there's proof of it because the cheater says that they're banning cheats. Look, VAC works, okay? It works. Okay. It's only going to take...
Let me save you from this one, Austin. Okay. So one of the things that's been shown in society is, well, okay, my understanding is it's been shown that, like, more severe punishments typically don't actually prevent crime. But what does prevent crime is the certainty of punishment. Because, like, if you're going to get the death penalty for, like, I don't know, stealing pencils, well, you're probably not going to be that, I mean, sure, but, like, you might not be that scared of it if nobody ever gets caught doing it. But, like, even if it's just a slap on the wrist, like you get publicly humiliated for stealing pencils, if you're 100% definitely going to get caught, you're just not going to do that shit, even if the punishment is, like, pretty minimal. And when it comes to cheating in CS, it's like either you're catching them instantly, which is not like realistic, I feel like, to catch all cheaters that instantly. Otherwise, if you don't catch them fast enough, then they're just going to cheat in a bunch of games, get banned, and then just get a new account because they're not that expensive, right? So I think a solution where you just stick them in hack versus hack lobbies and just basically, like, make them play with themselves does feel like both it's a good punishment, and it keeps them maybe questioning themselves for when they actually got caught, because maybe they just get more and more cheaters in their games and they never really realize that it's like a switch on and off. But also, yeah, it's a great way to actually get data on the cheaters, and it prevents kind of false positives, is part of the point I was trying to get at here, is that, like, you can kind of have someone just lower their trust factor. It's not like an on-off switch as with the VAC ban, right? So maybe you can have some more leniency in terms of, like, how harsh you are, how quick you are to begin to judge someone. I don't know if that's maybe necessarily a good thing or if they'd even want that. But I don't know. It seems to make a whole lot of sense, and it's just a great way to prevent cheaters from necessarily just being like, oh, I got VAC banned, I need to buy a new account. Now it's actually a question like, oh, I'm in low trust factor. Well, does that mean I need to buy a new account? Like, it's kind of more of a question. I don't know. It's a good thing as long as they're doing it actively and doing it quickly.
I mean, the idea, I guess, is like you let these hackers keep playing against each other on your servers, and you use your AI anti-cheat to just collect data, and you know they're cheating. So it would help detect things further. Now, in the interview, the guy actually says that there is like certain ways to get a game canceled that they know about. And one of those is the suspicious wall bangs. I thought this was pretty cool, but if the game says that you're getting too many wall bangs, that it's just not real, or you're wall banging through something that's too thick that doesn't make any sense, they'll just cancel the match and they'll lower your trust factor and we'll move on. Now, you're not having a lot of false positives with this because what they're looking for is op wall bangs or scout wall bangs through like 4 or 5 different things, right? But it's progress nonetheless, and I think that it's a pretty good solution if you think about it, because the idea is over time the anti-cheat will get built up to a point where every fathomable cheat will have been detected by something, at least, even if it's like just a little bit. And in a year or 2 years, VAC is going to be very strong. And the guy actually said that himself. He thinks it'll take about a year to 2 years before it'll be almost impossible to cheat on VAC secured servers.
Let's be honest here. Like, is a cheater being honest? Is he maybe just
of course
trying to
not,
make
but
people feel
I will
like
say
it? Yeah.
There's probably some truth to this. Does he actually think that it'll always be impossible to cheat? Probably not. But even if he is saying that he's giving VAC credit and saying that they're doing something, I think that that's a little bit of a relief for the community. Even if you don't want to believe him, that's fine. I do, because it's true. I mean, how many games have you gotten spin botted against recently? Somebody in the comments will say they get spin botted every day, but that's probably not true. Or maybe you're just in low trust factor, which, by the way, is another small downside. Is if you're just really toxic, have fun in your lobbies, man. That's all I'll say. But I do think that it overall is a step in the right direction. And I kind of like to think of the new VAC system as an investment, where it's like, yeah, like, sure, right now it might be bad, and it might be tough to justify playing because you're going to play against cheaters. But in the long run, it's probably the best possible solution for them to do. I don't really see other game companies having success getting rid of cheaters. Like, I play COD very casually, and I'm getting cheaters in my games, and I know it's an issue. I mean, if you play any other game, I feel like you're running into cheaters in some regard. So it's an issue everywhere, but I feel like this is the closest that we can get to just completely snuffing it out. If it's possible. It's not, by the way, but if it is, this is the closest we're going to get.
Yeah, and Valve was kind of ahead of the curve, but when you see people complaining about FaceIt because of these hardware cheats that are supposedly undetectable by any standard anti-cheat, you can see why Valve did think to go the AI route, because they saw the realistic possibility that in the future there will be cheats that you simply cannot detect. On a software level, you won't be able to detect it just by finding the cheat. You need the AI to like detect what is a cheat, like what behaviors that cheat might have. So it makes a lot of sense, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's still, at this very moment, if you play CS, I still think you're probably getting a decent amount of cheaters, and it's still, it's hard to justify how long it's taken. I think people are reasonably fair.
No, I agree. It's been almost, 2 years of CS2 being out, and it's still running rampant. So I can understand the community being upset. But one thing that I will say is he did talk about, and he being the cheater, he did talk about that kernel level anti-cheat doesn't do anything. He said that there's still people cheating on FaceIt with no real issue, and it doesn't actually do anything. So he says the only thing that Valve would do by adding a kernel level anti-cheat is limit the players, because you can't play with Linux or something like this.
I'm taking this one. This one is like, I agree that there are still people that cheat on FaceIt, but the idea that a kernel level anti-cheat doesn't do anything, to me, seems fucking crazy. And it is exactly what a cheater would say if a kernel level anti-cheat did a lot.
True. I actually will give you that. I think that makes a ton of sense. He could just be misleading, but I guess you just have to see what Valve does. If they don't believe in a kernel level anti-cheat, then fine.
And you know what? We will see what Valve does next week in Counter-Strike.